Hello everybody, KT here with Wise Images Photography, and today we are going to go ahead and talk about what wildlife photography and losing my health has taught me. At first I was like, should I really bring the whole losing my health into this? But it was actually because of me kind of losing my health, so to speak, was kind of what made me realize a little bit more about wildlife photography. And this is my journey. I know that everybody has different levels of health and everybody's going through their own life journey. But I'm hoping that what I've learned, maybe it can help you, even though I know that things are, every situation is different. But I decided that I would share because maybe I could help somebody. So let's get going. As I launched my channel in 2022, which was 3 years ago, my health started to tank. I went from being very, very active, like 8 hours a week I was exercising. I would go on bike rides, I was walking, I was lifting weights, I was doing yoga, and then also hiking on top of it on the weekends and just going and exploring and getting on the boat. And so I was a very, very active person too. It just kind of got where I could barely walk anymore, and sometimes I was collapsing, and it just went for a drastic turn. And that's kind of how it was, kind of like a wildlife documentary, right? You see animals thriving in the wild, and then you see the illness, and then you see the death. You see them running for their lives, right? And just trying to make sure that they survive. And that's kind of how I felt about my life. In this enforced stillness, something unexpected happened. And it's taken me almost 3 years to learn it, but I'm now learning how to see life through a different lens. Be patient. That was a hard one to learn, to be patient. I couldn't even hike, let alone sometimes even go across the room. And I had to learn how to wait. I had to learn how to be patient. And I had to learn how to be still. And in this, I learned that this was great training for wildlife photography because, yes, you guys know me. I like to walk, move and explore everything and try to find everything, right? But I also learned that there are going to be times when you're going to want to sit. You're going to want to go ahead and be patient and wait. It forced me to learn how to observe what was going on and take note of what the animals are doing. And I will say the animals don't always come on cue. Sometimes they don't even show up, and other times it comes in a blink of an eye. What I learned is that you learn to stay ready even when it looks like nothing is about to happen, because eventually something is going to happen. It's kind of like when you watch something grow and you plant it. It seems like nothing is happening, just like with an illness, especially when you're recovering and you're healing. Maybe you don't see that your body is actually healing, but then eventually, just like that sprout comes out, eventually you're able to do something that you maybe weren't able to do before. Like walk a little bit better, or lift something you couldn't lift before, or just do something you couldn't do before. Like I remember when I could finally dance. That was very exciting. Humility is another thing that I learned. Yeah, that one was learning how to accept help. Sometimes in the wild, animals that you would think that would not get along, they actually help each other, which is very interesting. Of course, I don't know if an animal really realizes the humbleness of that, but, I had to learn to ask for help and accept that help. So being humble was something that I learned. The other part of that is that nature doesn't care about your plans. You can hike forever, right? You can hike through the mud and hike through the water and hike through the sand. And I do not like hiking through sugar sand. Let me just tell you what, it is an absolute bear. But you keep on going and going, and you might not even come back with the shot that you want. You just come back with a bunch of mosquito bites and cuts and bruises and whatever else, right? Just like with recovery, when you're healing from something, or you're going through something, or you're fighting it, right? It has no schedule, right? It has no timeline. You aren't in control, and it can be a bit frustrating, just like if you were out and about all day long trying to get shots and you don't get anything. It's frustrating. However, what I learned was like, and it was hard. It was hard that eventually I learned that just being alive, to be able to witness what is going on in the wild, and just like with my illness, is just, even though it wasn't on my timeline, right? I would have wanted it a lot faster. Being able to heal, no matter how slow it was taking me, was enough. Being present. When you are actively doing wildlife photography, you have to be present. Because if you aren't present, you're going to miss that deer that comes out across the trail. Or you're going to miss that hawk that's about to take a dive. When I was ill and I was in pain, I will fully admit that it was hard to put a smile on my face because of how much pain I was in. And it was really hard to be present. I will say, as the pain started to decrease, I did start to become more present. I started realizing that I was in less pain. I started realizing I was walking better. In time, I have learned to stop chasing what was and accepting what is, and being grateful for what I have. So basically, when it comes to wildlife photography and losing your health, it is probably not going to be nice and neat and all pretty. It is going to be a hot mess with some miracles sprinkled all in it. I feel like it's kind of like, it's about showing up, right? It's about accepting things the way they are, letting go of control, being grateful for what you have, adapting to what's going on, and just keep on pushing forward. So when you feel like you're getting frustrated with your wildlife photography because you aren't getting the shots that you guys want to get, or maybe just in life you aren't exactly where you want to be, this is something that I started making a practice for myself to kind of help me put things in perspective and continue to see through that lens. Let's say, for example, I started to stumble, or maybe I couldn't lift something, or there was just something, right? And I would just say to myself, KT, where were you a year ago? Could you have even done this a year ago? And a lot of times, not so much now, but really more so probably about 6 months ago, I would say, wow, you couldn't even do this, or wow, you couldn't even do that. I remember when it was like, oh wow, yeah, you weren't even walking this time last year, you know? So I kind of put things into perspective. I stopped, paused for a minute, and thought about where I was. And then, remembering where I was learning how to be grateful for where I am now and be thankful for where I am. And that has really helped me out a lot. And so with that, you know, I keep on carrying on. I'm learning how to adapt. It's hard. I don't have it down pat, but I'm trying. And that's what I think all of us can do. So I hope this was able to help you in some way. Remember that you are awesome. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And I'll see you later, alligator.